Number 7. A rejection not accepted. In July 2019, 18-year-old Gabriella Welsh had a distressing experience during a night out in central Manchester. While she was out with a friend, 3 men started following them continuously and making them uncomfortable. Gabriella tried to deter them politely by telling them she was sorry and that she was not interested. But her attempt to confirm her disinterest in their company led to a heated argument and eventually turned violent. One of the men attacked Gabriella, punching her and knocking her unconscious. Her friend Kyle also got assaulted when he tried to intervene. Fortunately, volunteers from the Village Angels Community Safety Group came to help them, providing first aid. Despite their help, getting an ambulance turned out to be challenging, with a 2-hour wait time. Gabriella decided to take a taxi to the hospital instead. At the hospital, she got minimal treatment, mainly eye drops, and was sent home. The next day, she returned to the eye hospital because her vision had not improved. Doctors found blood clots in her eye, and her vision remained impaired. A friend shared photos of Gabriella's injuries and the incident on social media, which quickly gained attention. This attack left Gabriella feeling scared to go out alone, making her feel vulnerable. She emphasized how some women felt hesitant to say no in such situations, fearing retaliation. The attacker was described as a white man, approximately 5 foot 8 inches tall, wearing a pink t-shirt. The authorities released CCTV footage, asking people to identify the attacker. So far, there are no more updates on the arrest of the culprit. Number 6. Scared to be lonely. On August 6, 2022, in Tekirdağ province, Turkey, a jealous boyfriend completely lost it. The couple had spent the day celebrating their friend Merv Y's 32nd birthday at a restaurant. Following the meal, they went to a nearby lookout point known as Ashikla Tepesi, which translates to Lover's Hill. Throughout the evening, they had been enjoying drinks both at the restaurant and the viewpoint, where they mingled with Merv and her boyfriend. But a violent fight erupted between 41-year-old Selçuk Çetinar and his girlfriend, 35-year-old beautician Melike Derece, seemingly driven by jealousy. According to the other couple present, Selçuk pushed Melike to the ground before helping her back up. It was at this point that he shouted that if they die together. Before Melike could react, he embraced her around the waist and jumped off the cliff, taking her with him. The fall resulted in their deaths from an 82-foot plunge. Paramedics transported their bodies to the morgue at Marmara Erglisi Public Hospital, where the police secured their mobile phones for further examination. Reports show that Melike was probably the mother of 2 children. Not much else was found out about the couple, and their relationship with each other remained shrouded in mystery. Number 5. The Young Devil. On June 7, 1992, 18-year-old Katie Ratcliffe, an apprentice hairdresser, was brutally murdered by a 12-year-old girl. She had been walking home in the early hours after a night out at Ragamuffins nightclub in Camberley. That's when Shannon Carr carried out a senseless attack on her, using a 6.5-inch knife to stab Ratcliffe 32 times, inflicting wounds on her ribs, heart, vagina and anus. Some of Ratcliffe's jewelry was also stolen during the attack. After the act, Carr, along with some friends, moved Ratcliffe's lifeless body to Farnborough. There, her body was dragged along a road and discarded by a cemetery wall. The discovery of her body came later that morning when a group of boys stumbled upon it. The police, upon investigating the murder, were struck by the brutality of the attack. Some of the knife wounds had pierced Ratcliffe's body entirely. Her sexual organs had been subjected to mutilation, and although her clothes were found disheveled, there was no evidence of sexual assault. The severity and sexually motivated nature of the crime led the authorities to believe the perpetrator was an adult male, leaving them unable to identify the real killer at first. Carr, born in Belize in 1979, grew up in difficult circumstances. Raised by her mother and stepfather in poverty, she was one of 4 children by 3 different fathers, never knowing her biological father. The family moved to Camberley, Surrey in 1986, but their domestic life was marred by violence. Carr's mother poured boiling fat on her stepfather in a domestic dispute, resulting in both being hospitalized with burns. During her early school years, Carr was described as polite and helpful by her teachers. However, she showed signs of aggression and behavioral issues, especially as she got older. Carr's interactions with authority figures became problematic, and in 1990, her disruptive behavior led to social services briefly placing her in foster care. She returned home after just 1 month. Her behavior escalated, leading to her expulsion twice in early 1994. 2 years after the tragic murder of Ratcliffe, on June 7, 1994, Carr struck again. This time, her target was a fellow pupil, Anne-Marie Clifford, only 13 years old. Carr attacked Clifford with a knife in the school restroom at Collingwood College Comprehensive School in Surrey. The assault left Clifford with a punctured lung, and she came close to losing her life. Carr only stopped when 5 students entered the restroom and intervened, which saved Clifford's life. Surprisingly, Carr was smiling during the attack. Carr's arrest revealed alarming details about her inclinations. She confessed to taking pleasure in stabbing cats and even admitted to beheading a dog, painting a disturbing picture of her violent tendencies. She was sent to a medical assessment center where she tried to strangle 2 staff members. This led to her facing additional charges of 2 counts of actual bodily harm, alongside the charges of her attack on Clifford. In December 1994, she was convicted and sentenced to be detained at Her Majesty's pleasure. At first, she was placed in various psychiatric units, but her frequent and severe assaults on other females prompted her transfer to an all-boys unit at Aycliffe Secure Centre. In September 1995, she was moved to Bullwood Hall Young Offenders Institution in the hope of better managing her aggressive and sexualized behavior. Carr was openly discussing the murder of Ratcliffe with her friends and family through telephone calls and her diary. She also admitted to attacking a prison officer whom she claimed to have a crush on, openly discussing it with a probation officer. Staff at the institution reported these conversations to the police, leading to the seizure of her writings and drawings. Carr's diaries contained explicit details of her sexual arousal at the thought of Ratcliffe's death. She had also drawn pictures of the knife used in the murder. During police questioning, Carr confessed to the killing, providing graphic details of the injuries inflicted, some of which had been withheld by the police. She even knew about a stolen bracelet from Ratcliffe, a fact that had not been publicly disclosed. Carr helped the police in filming a reconstruction of the murder, taking on the role of the perpetrator and displaying a disturbing nonchalance as she discussed the gruesome details. In May 1996, Carr was formally charged with Ratcliffe's murder. Following a month-long trial at Winchester Crown Court, she was convicted of murder on March 25, 1997. Carr became Britain's youngest ever female murderer, having committed the crime at the age of 12. She was convicted of murder, not manslaughter. Carr left the dock after her conviction with a smile, receiving a minimum sentence of 14 years imprisonment. Do you think Carr could ever be successfully rehabilitated? Let us know in the comments and hit subscribe while you're at it. Number 4. A Dreadful Father. On September 4th, 2023, 37-year-old Stephen Thomas Rodder, a father from Florida, was arrested for the brutal murder of his 16-year-old son, Stephen Lee Rodder. This incident involved the use of an angle grinder, and while the motive is unclear, there are concerning details about the suspect. Stephen Thomas had a history of using methamphetamine and has experienced psychotic episodes in the past. His criminal record is extensive, and his actions have raised questions about his mental state. The victim, Stephen Lee, was known as a stellar high school student. He was living in a mobile home on Old Barrow Road in Lake Wales with his grandfather, who was taking care of him while his grandmother was in rehab. Stephen Thomas, described as a drifter, arrived at the home about a month before the tragic event. He had been living there since. On the morning of the incident, the victim's grandfather left to visit his wife in rehab. During this time, Stephen Thomas used an angle grinder to commit the murder. Before leaving the scene, the suspect bumped into his father outside the home, who had returned after visiting his wife. The father cautioned him not to enter the home without calling the police, and then Stephen Thomas fled, but was arrested a mile away on Highway 60. The suspect's history is troubling, with numerous arrests on drug charges and a long list of mugshots dating back to 2008. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd expressed deep sorrow over the brutality of the crime. He described the victim as a stand-up young man, a student at Frostproof High School who was studying to become an electrician and was set to begin a job at Burger King. Stephen Thomas was charged with first-degree murder and remained in the custody of the Polk County Sheriff's Office. Number 3. The Groomed One. On April 23, 2006, a couple made a meticulous plan to kill the girl's family for being unsupportive of their relationship. 12-year-old Jasmine Richardson's life took a dark turn when she fell for Jeremy Steinker, a 23-year-old man she met at a punk rock show. Before her relationship with him, she was known as a happy and sociable girl. However, once she got involved with Jeremy, who was 11 years her senior, things changed. Jeremy had a troubled upbringing, as his mother struggled with alcoholism, and he endured abuse from her partner. He was also a target of bullying at school. By the time he met Jasmine, he had developed an elaborate persona, claiming to be a 300-year-old werewolf and wearing a vial of blood around his neck. When Jasmine's parents, Mark and Deborah, discovered her relationship with Jeremy, they put a stop to it, forbidding her from seeing him. This decision did not sit well with the young couple, who were deeply in love. Jeremy vented his anger in a disturbing blog post, expressing a desire to harm Jasmine's parents. The plan to murder her family began to take shape, with Jasmine initially proposing the idea. She sent Jeremy an email outlining her plan, telling him that it begins with her killing them and ends with her living with him. Jeremy agreed, but insisted they add more details to the plan. Even though Jasmine shared her plans with friends, they either did not believe her or thought she was joking. The night before the murders, she and Jeremy watched the movie Natural Born Killers. Then, on April 23rd, they carried out their plan at Jasmine's family home in Medicine Hat, Canada. The scene was discovered the next day when a young neighbor went to visit Jasmine's little brother and saw something alarming through a window. He quickly reported it to his mother, who called the police. Investigator Brent Secondica arrived and peered into the basement window, where he saw at least one person on the ground. He called for backup, hoping they could save someone inside, but everyone in the house had been brutally murdered. The victims included Mark, Deborah, and their 8-year-old son. Astonishingly, their 12-year-old daughter Jasmine was missing. At first, police suspected Jasmine might be a victim as well and issued an Amber Alert. But as they collected evidence from her room and locker, they began to realize she was the primary suspect in this horrifying crime. Jasmine and Jeremy were caught through digital evidence, mainly emails between them, which led to their arrest in Jeremy's truck. During their trial, witnesses testified that they had confessed to the murders, with Jeremy shockingly describing the victims as being gutted like fish. Jasmine initially pleaded not guilty at her 2007 trial, claiming their discussions about killing her family were hypothetical, but she was ultimately found guilty by a jury on 3 counts of first-degree murder. Due to her age, she received the maximum sentence for a youth, which was 6 years in jail, followed by 4 years of community supervision. She was 13 years old at the time of her conviction. In 2008, Jeremy was also convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder, and as he was 25 at the time, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. Interestingly, while in jail, the couple exchanged letters in which they promised to marry, displaying no signs of guilt or remorse. After her sentencing, Jasmine underwent intensive rehabilitation and treatment. Psychiatric assessments revealed that she had been diagnosed with conduct disorder and oppositional defiant disorder. In 2016, she was released from the criminal justice system, just 1 year younger than Jeremy was when they committed the murders. She wished to atone for her sins and become a better person in the future. Number 2. A vicious boyfriend. On October 22, 2020, 37-year-old Danielle Marano was found dead at the base of her 6th-floor apartment building on Ocean Promenade in Rocky Way Park, Queens. What makes this story even more distressing is that her boyfriend, 34-year-old Shmuel Levine, stands accused of murdering her. Levine's arrest came shortly after Marano's death, when he admitted to the act. The couple had a heated fight, seemingly triggered by Levine's belief that Marano was cheating on him. This argument turned violent, leading Levine to beat and choke Marano mercilessly. Eventually, he threw her either from the apartment window or balcony, resulting in a fatal fall from the 6th floor. At first, authorities believed Marano's death to be of her own ill will. Still, suspicions arose when hospital workers noticed that some of her injuries did not align with a fall. Levine's confession further unraveled the truth behind this incident. The couple had been in a relationship for 5 years, but jealousy and anger boiled over, leading to this tragic outcome. During their fight, Levine put Marano in a chokehold, physically assaulted her, and tried to take her phone away. The catalyst for this violence was Levine's suspicion of Marano's infidelity, a claim she admitted to during their argument. The medical examiner's report painted a detailed picture of Marano's suffering. She had endured multiple skull fractures, with at least 2 of them inconsistent with a fall. There were more signs of struggle within the apartment, including a large dent on the wall and hair matching the victims found at the scene. Further injuries such as fractured ribs, a fractured humerus, and cuts near her armpits were discovered. Her death was initially classified as a homicide due to unnatural blunt force trauma. Despite Levine's prior clean criminal record, neighbors recall an incident where he made threatening remarks about tearing someone limb from limb during an aggressive encounter. His trial is still ongoing, and as of now, he awaits his sentence. If convicted, he could face at least 25 years with a maximum sentence of life in prison. Number 1. Careless Thugs. On January 14, 2022, a passerby found 56-year-old Michael Bastable's lifeless body in an alleyway near Selborne Road and contacted Dorset police at 3:03 p.m. Paramedics declared Bastable dead at the scene, and at first, they attributed his death to a gastrointestinal bleed. The police did not treat the death as suspicious until 2 days later when Bastable's brother reported his bicycle missing and found items near the scene that belonged to the victim. It was also discovered that Bastable's bank card had been used after his death, prompting an investigation. CCTV footage played a crucial role in piecing together the events. It showed Bastable walking toward the alleyway shortly before 3 p.m., with 3 men observed in the area moments later. More footage captured the men leaving the alley, with Hayden Johnson seen riding a bicycle. Johnson proceeded to sell a Scott mountain bike at Cash Generator in Christchurch Road for £100 on the same day. A post-mortem examination conducted on January 26th revealed that Bastable's cause of death was injuries to his stomach area, consistent with repeated stomping or jumping while he lay on the ground. Later, 3 men from Bournemouth, Dorset, came forward and admitted to causing the death by repeatedly stomping on him during a robbery in an alleyway. 31-year-old Damien Sean Johnson, 29-year-old Hayden Johnson, and 30-year-old Dominic MacDonald entered their guilty pleas at the Winchester Crown Court on July 8th. They also pleaded guilty to robbery charges related to this incident, as well as other violent incidents earlier in the year. On January 19th, they attacked a person in Christchurch Road, stealing £460. 2 days later, they assaulted another man in the basement of an address on Christchurch Road, using a baseball bat to do so. This time, they stole the victim's wallet and watch. The Johnson brothers were identified from CCTV footage of one of these incidents. Hayden sold a watch matching the one stolen in the robbery at Cash Generator the next day. In July 2022, Damien and Hayden were jailed for 22 years each, while MacDonald was sentenced to 18 years in prison. Which one of these murders were you not expecting at all? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.